Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for attending our virtual Lunch and Learn featuring Jennifer Foxworthy. We're really looking forward to today's event. A few notes as we get started. If you need closed captioning, you can find it by hitting the three dots where it says More Actions, then go to Language and Speech, and then you can select to turn on live captions. We also want to thank Sharon, our interpreter, for joining us today. And if everyone could please keep your mics muted, we will have a Q&A portion, and we'll be answering questions in the chat as well. At this time, I'd love to turn it over to our Director of Education, Desiree Chang.
Thank you, Director Brothman. I just want to echo Director Brothman's sentiments and thanking everyone for joining us for today's Lunch and Learn. And before we get started and I introduce our speaker, I'd love to turn it over to Executive Director Lassiter for any opening remarks.
Good afternoon, everyone. Just blessed to be alive, blessed to see this day, another opportunity to try to get this thing right in this thing called life. It's good to see everyone.
If you can turn one of these on the volume for me, that would be great.
Just so very
here, it couldn't access the camera. So there we are there.
Dana, you are not muted. If you wouldn't mind muting, please.
Yeah, just so very excited to be here. Dr. Foxworthy and I were on a panel a little over a month ago, and as I was on the panel with her, I was just so swept away with just the things that she was sharing and found it to be extremely inspiring. And there's a lot of nonverbal communications. You can't see me now, but from an eyebrow perspective, but my eyebrows went up, and Director Chang, her eyebrow went up, and Special Assistant Zulai Rojas, her eyebrows went up, and Kara Bowman, her eyebrows went up, and our eyebrows all spoke consensus that this is a woman that we needed to have come to the PHRC to deliver for us for such a time as this, the same thing that she delivered at that particular point in time. So just excited about this. So very needed as PHRC continues to learn more about spaces of human trafficking, sex trafficking, as we embark upon relatively soon being a trauma-informed care agency. So I want to thank Director Brothman, as always, for the flyer compilation, for organizing this, Director Chang, and so many individuals who make sure that we push this forward, not just for the PHRC, and not just for the people of the Commonwealth, because we have people who join us that are not in Pennsylvania, they're out of state as well. So once again, welcome to the virtual beloved space, wherever you are. Hope that your day is coming along awesome with a capital A. Thank you.
Thank you, Edie Lassiter. And so without further ado, I'd like to share with everyone just a brief bio on our featured speaker. Jennifer Foxworthy served our country proudly for over 21 years and 7 months. She is a retired U.S. Navy combat veteran, pursuing her second career as the founder and CEO of Inspirationally Speaking, LLC, and Unstoppable You Ministries, Inc. Jennifer continues to be of service to others through her purpose and passion as a distinguished Toastmasters award-winning motivational speaker, international published author of Tomorrow My Sunshine Will Come, Memoirs of Women Who Survived Domestic Violence, event organizer and host of Unstoppable You Conference, television show host of Living Unshackled on Purpose, corporate trainer, public speaking coach, as well as a prolific blogger of GUMBO, aka Gumbo. And I am honored to turn it over to you, Ms. Foxworthy.
Thank you from the bottom of my heart, PHRC, for just seeing something that I was saying at that panel discussion to invite me to be a guest as your guest speaker for your Lunch and Learn. I am going to go through these PowerPoints and the PowerPoint slides. And again, I look forward to addressing any questions towards the end. So I just want to make sure that this is a valuable opportunity for your audience and that I stay within time. So. Somehow I have lost you on my screen.
We still
I
see
don't-
you and your presentation.
You still
See-
see me?
Yes, so you just won't see yourself anymore.
Okay, because yeah, I lost the box that you all were in. Okay, so we'll just get through this and just interrupt me trying to do both. But this first slide is basically, I'm the founder and CEO of Unstoppable You Ministries, and I just want to share briefly who we are and what our mission is. Basically, we are a faith-based nonprofit 501c3 organization. We provide services around the country, although by way of being a transplant for the military, my last stop is in Southern Maryland, but I'm born and raised in York, Pennsylvania. But again, our nonprofit, we provide services around the country because of our different platforms. Matter of fact, I'm hosting my 28th conference in York, Pennsylvania on Saturday, November 4th. So we provide services to populations experiencing domestic violence, human trafficking, and homelessness. And I'll say that one person can experience all three. So what we'll go over today, we're going to go over the basics, human trafficking awareness, and then figure out a plan of action. What can you do? And then the Q&A. So I just want to preface, it's all about self-care. There may be things that I share, obviously not graphic, but based on what your experience are in the past or currently, you could be triggered. If you are, it's okay to kind of step out and regroup. I am a trauma-informed specialist. So if someone needs to talk afterwards, I'm there for you. So we're going to go over the definitions, statistics, identifying a human trafficking victim, because many people are like, okay, now that I have this information, now what do I do? The vulnerabilities, misconceptions, a couple of real stories from my of clients that I have had, and then how can you help? So what is it? The human trafficking, it encompasses sex trafficking and labor trafficking. Sex trafficking is fraudulent, forcibly or coercively causing another to engage in commercial sex act. So there's three components when it comes to trafficking: force, fraud, or coercion. It has to have one of those three, one or all of those three components: force, fraud, or coercion. If the victim of sex trafficking is under the age of 18, merely causing him or her to engage in a commercial sex act is enough to constitute sex trafficking. Why is this important? Our young boys and girls, they have social media at the tips of their finger, and traffickers stay several feet ahead of them. So they're looking for that teenager that has nothing but selfies on their platform. To them, that is someone who is expressing low self-esteem when there is nothing else of substance on their social media. When all you're seeing, and this goes for adults as well, selfies, 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 selfies. And then they inbox that person, and thus begins the grooming, in which we'll go further into. Many teens may take pictures of their body parts and send it to someone else, thinking it's funny or whatever the case is, they don't realize it can be used as blackmail, or that they are now engaging in pornography. So it's really important to have these conversations with our young folks to let them know what is acceptable and unacceptable behavior, because their choices could lead them into exposed to trafficking. Labor trafficking is defined by the federal statute as the recruiting, harboring, transporting, providing, or obtaining of people for forced or coerced labor. The coercion could be harm directed at the victim or someone else. How it happens. Recruiting includes proactive targeting of vulnerability and grooming behaviors. Again, traffickers are looking for vulnerabilities. That low self-esteem is huge and is seen in many ways. It could be someone alone. Their posture is slumped over. They don't give eye contact. There's many ways that traffickers are cueing in as to vulnerabilities. It takes 7 seconds or less for a criminal to determine if you are a hard or soft target. Harboring includes isolation, confinement, monitoring. Transporting includes movement and arranging travel. Providing includes forcibly taking, exchanging something for ability to control. Soliciting includes offering something of value. Patronizing includes receiving something of value. So that could be someone going to illicit massage parlors or calling up escorts. And substances used to control and coerce victims. Drugs and alcohol, especially drugs, are like one of the number one things to control the victims. When someone is in that sedated mindset and addicted to drugs, it's heartbreaking. But yes, traffickers will get their victims dependent on drugs, and then they use that drugs as a means to control them. So some statistics. I want to go over, Pennsylvania ranks within number 10, in the top 10 in the country, Pennsylvania, of human trafficking. What makes Pennsylvania so lucrative is that you have major sporting events that happen. You have many major casinos. You have I-95 that goes from Maine all the way down to Florida. You have Route 30. You have many 83. You have many arteries, highways and byways that are used for traffickers to transport. So yes, Pennsylvania ranks within the top 10. Human trafficking, I do believe that this dollar amount, it could be outdated and that it's more in the $240 billion, but for this presentation, we'll say that we'll go with $150 billion global industry, criminal industry, that affects more than 40 million people worldwide. When I spoke on the panel, the theme was the value of a life. And so when you think of a value of a life, the average age is 12 to 14-year-olds. They're targeting children that are in the pubescent age group. And each individual brings in an average of $200,000 a year. Unfortunately, because of this lifestyle, that victim may only last 7 years, bringing that trafficker $1.4 million, $1,400,000. So that trafficker has already put a value on that child's life. And that's why I'm so honored to be able to be sharing this information to really hit it home of why human trafficking is so lucrative. And unfortunately, the United States is the biggest consumer of sex trafficking, of human trafficking. The United States is the biggest consumer out of all the countries. That should give us pause. And with an individual, unlike a drug, when you take a drug once, it's gone. But with a human being, you can use that body over and over and over again. The average buyers for a victim is anywhere from 11 to 37 buyers, even more a day. "42% of the victims were brought into trafficking by a family member or a member of their family. So it's not always like the movies where they're stolen or kidnapped. Yes, that can happen. It has happened. But many times it's a family member that brings that victim into the world of being trafficked. 39% were recruited via an intimate partner or a marriage proposition. I want to go briefly back to the family members because familial trafficking is huge. And many people will miss the signs, or they're thinking, oh, it's somebody on the street corner, when reality is it's happening in the home. So as reported by the Counter Trafficking Data Collaborative, I'm reading from some notes here because I didn't want to inundate the PowerPoint slide. Familial trafficking makes up 36% of human trafficking cases. By a recent study, 64% of traffickers were mothers who were assisted by a non-relative trafficker, meaning a prior boyfriend or a therapist or someone with sinister ideas to get at that child and use them for the evilness. And in 82% of these cases, drugs were the currency used to profit from the exchange. Also recognized by the CTDC, it was reported that almost half of identified cases of child trafficking begin with some family member involvement. So I just wanted to hit that home, that familial trafficking, and that's why it's important for all of us to care and know the signs and see how we can be a part of the solution. It could even be caregivers. It just goes on and on. So next, I wanted to just share about the 39% recruited via an intimate partner or a marriage proposition. So this is where the intersection of domestic violence and human trafficking come into play. According to Polaris, up to 88% of human trafficking victims seek healthcare services. For example, STDs, pregnancies, substance use, forced abortions, physical abuse, and so on. And this also includes mental health issues such as suicides. And we'll also discuss depression and anxiety. So again, the victim experiences all of this. So it's important for our healthcare professionals our nurses and doctors, everyone working in emergency rooms, hospitals, and so on, to be mindful of what human trafficking is and to have a plan in place. Not everyone that comes through the emergency room or has an appointment is just a straight up, this is what it is. It could be human trafficking. And so it's important to have a appropriate questionnaire and to be mindful of the signs. What to look for and what are the signs? So I want to just share, I know I put this in the handout. This is the sex trafficking and labor trafficking power and control wheel. I just want to give a visual of what victims are dealing with when they are being controlled by the trafficker. You have the coercion and threats, intimidation, emotional abuse, isolation, denying, blaming, minimizing, the sexual abuse, the physical abuse, using privilege, and economic abuse. So I, for the sake of time, we could come back here, but I want to be able to just be mindful of time. But this is how the power and control between the trafficker and the victim. Some of the signs, the health consequences, as we mentioned, include fatigue, headaches, pregnancy, and sexual and reproductive problems. Notably the STIs, sexually transmitted infections or diseases, back pain, weight loss. This is also important for educators and anybody. We all can play a part in recognizing that someone could possibly be a victim. Mental health components such as PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, depression and anxiety, just to name a few of the mental health components. In September was Suicide Awareness Month. And so Unstoppable You Ministries, we talked about the intersection of human trafficking and suicide. When you can imagine when a body is being used and abused daily, isolated from loved ones, and they may not see a means of escape, taking their own life could be what they see as their way of freedom. It's important to recognize up-priced wardrobe, especially teenagers. And if they are wearing clothes that the parent or the guardian did not buy, then it's like, well, where did you get this outfit? Another thing is, say, parents may be doing laundry and they come across a room key in their child's clothing. Well, it's like, what are you doing with this room key? Or maybe they're able to describe a city very well, but they've never been there with that parent, that guardian. It's like, what's going on? So it's opportunity to cue in on these signs. Unexplained gifts such as jewelry and trips, like I mentioned. Change in personality and friends. Maybe they were, A students and just academically excelling. Now they're skipping school. They're hanging around the wrong crowd. How they dress has changed. Their demeanor, their behavior. Again, these can be things that we can clue in that something is not right. And tattoos and markings. As you saw from the first slide, many traffickers will brand their victim. by putting the crown, a tattoo of a crown or a dollar sign or barcode. And many times underneath those tattoos, especially the barcode, those numbers could represent how much that victim is worth. And children may display inappropriate behaviors, maybe touching themselves inappropriately in public. I recall attending a training, and there's this survivor who explained that she was trafficked back to where she was a baby, unfortunately. And her family used cameras, videos. They were recording pornography using her in that way. And so, but she still had to go to school. So when it came time for picture day, in her mind, she saw cameras. She started to undress because that's what was expected of her at home once the cameras, the photography and the video cameras were out. So again, it's that inappropriate behavior, or maybe they are having a hard time sitting still. Maybe they're falling asleep in class. It's possibly because they were trafficked the night before. So again, it's important for us advocates, for people who care, who want to be in the trenches, to notice these things and ask the question, are you okay? What happened to you? How can I help? What's going on? And again, that takes time and trust, but asking a second and third question and not just leaving it at the person saying, I'm okay or nothing's wrong. Vulnerabilities. Who can be a victim? Substance use concern is used in sex and labor trafficking. Runaway, homeless youth. Unstable housing. So if you're thinking any home that has housing insecurity, food insecurity, if there's anything lacking in that home, it can be used as a vulnerability for traffickers to exploit. Matter of fact, I'm speaking at the Penn Stater on Saturday, or on November 14th, for Voce's second annual conference, the Forum for Pennsylvania's Children. And the title of my presentation is Pyramids and Windows, Going Beyond the Intersectionality of Domestic Violence and Human Trafficking. And so I use the theories of Maslow's hierarchy and Johari's window to discuss the vulnerabilities and how we can plug up that water damage. If you can think of a dam that is seeping out water, how do we as advocates plug those holes up? You got the mental health concerns. Recent migration, relocation, self-reported economic hardship, and criminal record, criminal history. All of these can be vulnerabilities to to trap victims or to make a victim. Some misconceptions. There are many misconceptions about human trafficking. It's not necessarily mobile, going from state to state or country to country. It happens in homes, schools, and community centers. You will have upperclassmen who traffic under your lowerclassmen before, during, and after school, at the parties. Yes, it's happening. You even have the gang members who are recruiting, because they know, your older gang members, they know that if they shoot and kill someone, they are going to jail for a very, very long time. However, if they can recruit 10, 11, 12-year-olds and they do the act, that child may get a slap on the wrist, or they may not do as much time as someone older. So gang members are now are being mindful of the laws and how they can get over. Traffickers are not only males, but females. Human trafficking occurs in rural, suburban, and urban communities in every state. It can be found in legitimate businesses as well as underground markets. So I live in Southern Maryland, and it took a while for people to realize that trafficking was happening here. We have MS-13 gang members. You may not know what they look like, or it's not really noticeable, but you know that they're here. So human trafficking is touching every component in our country and beyond. Human trafficking victims often don't seek help or self-identify as victims because of lack of trust, stigma, threats made by their traffickers, etc. Victims of human trafficking in the U.S. can be U.S. citizens, lawful permanent residents, visa holders, and undocumented individuals. So it's not just, oh, they're illegal immigrants. No, it's right here in the United States, people who can be law-abiding citizens, your average person. It can be an intimate relationship, may be a fraud instigated by the trafficker from the start. And intimate partners may hold wives and girlfriends in forced labor. I wanted to share that an intimate relationship may be a fraud instigated by the trafficker from the start. The trafficker acts as the Romeo, grooming the victim by treating them nice and buying them things. In fact, the pattern is particularly common in sex trafficking cases in which young victims are lured into marriages or romantic relationships only to be exploited by their partners through forced prostitution. The trafficker switches to other tactics and will not allow the victim to have interactions with their family without and withhold food and sleep. So again, they're searching out vulnerabilities. People need food, people need sleep. And if these things are withheld, they may be liable to do anything. So I have a couple of true stories. Again, I just want to be mindful of any triggers. So we had a client, I'll call her Rachel, for this presentation. Rachel she had a boyfriend that she knew from high school. But as they got older is when they came back together and started an intimate relationship. Well, unfortunately, her boyfriend was setting up buyers and told Rachel, this is what I want you to do. And he had already collected the money. And of course, she refused, but they end up gang raping her anyway. So Rachel was being trafficked by her boyfriend, and he was looking to transport her from Maryland up to Pennsylvania. Rachel at this time was also pregnant with his child. He knew that he could get more money from her because she was pregnant, and that the buyers would not have to deal with any consequences. So that's the intersection of domestic violence and human trafficking. Tammy, she was trafficked by her mother to the landlord from age 7 to 18 years old. And you can imagine during COVID, that was a tough time for many people. They lost their jobs, hours were cut, but bills still needed to be paid. Now, Tammy, obviously, she's older at this point, but when she shared her story, Tammy is no longer, she was not able to have children because her body was so abused by the landlord, this grown man with a child. So her reproductive system was severely damaged. And you can imagine the mental and emotional trauma that she had as well in dealing with this. So yes, she was trafficked by her mother to the landlord. So what can you do? Survivors of human trafficking rarely identify themselves as victims. A trained professional should engage in safety planning while respecting the patient's confidentiality and autonomy. Survivors often have significant trauma bonds with the abuser and require long-term support. Sex trafficking of a minor requires mandated report to Child Protective Services. And this is where training is critical with our law enforcement, with CPS, with advocates. This is just not a one size fits all or one agency that it's their job to spot and rescue victims and put the traffickers or abusers away. It takes, so they say, a village. It takes everybody. It takes everybody to get in the trenches and to support in some way. It also takes building trust, asking open-ended questions, and consider language barriers. So advocate, provide healthy examples, share resources, be vigilant. I wanted to just briefly go over some statistics dealing with Pennsylvania before I continue on. How are we doing with time?
We're at 1:41.
So I have about 3 or 4 more minutes.
Please don't feel rushed. I haven't seen any questions just yet in the chat, so we want to make sure, you're able to give it fully, and I'm sure the statistics are going to be impactful.
Okay, all right. So like I said, Pennsylvania ranks in the top 10 in the country. This is from the National Human Trafficking Hotline. This is 2021. 192 cases were human trafficking cases were identified, in which 315 victims were involved. So I want you to know that one case can involve multiple victims. The top venue of where these victims were found were illicit massage spa businesses. Actually, 27 were from that venue. 14 were residents based of commercial sex. 10 were pornography. 9 were hotel. 9 online ad venues, unknown. 4 were truck stop based. and 80 were other. So I think when it comes to businesses, there's loopholes. Maybe in getting a business license, they don't have to be specific, or with, hey, this is a massage parlor or something, and somehow they're not being inspected. Because you shut them down, law enforcement, they shut them down, they pop back up. So I think that there is a disconnect and that there's a loophole that is being exploited in regards to illicit massage parlors. I want people to know that your large sporting events, football games, baseball games, you name it, when they're being hosted in your state or in that city, it brings in many buyers. And they are putting in their order like they are in Burger King. I want a 12-year-old brunette girl or boy, whatever it is, but that's how the buyers and the traffickers, they operate. When you look at modes of transportation, so Maryland is a huge hub. They bring them by water from Delaware over to the coast of Maryland. You have the MGM casino. It takes you 5 minutes. You can be from Maryland to DC to Virginia. Maryland has 3 major airports: Reagan, Dulles, and BWI. So again, we must be mindful of our surroundings and what it looks like, and how traffickers are also able to get over is, like drugs, you in a vehicle or on a person, you have drug sniffing canine. But with a human being, you can pose them as a relative and no one knows the wiser. Let's see. I wanted to bring everyone's attention to these 21 apps every parent should know. Many of these social medias people are familiar with, like Snapchat, Whisper, TikTok. Again, traffickers are using their instant messaging, the potential victim. But I want to draw people down just above the yellow box that says tips to keep up with the latest apps and sites. That looks like a calculator. However, it does not operate like a calculator. This app is used to hide videos, files, and other pictures. So all it takes is for the trafficker, once he has someone in their site as a potential victim, encourage them to download this particular app. And if a parent is not aware, oh, this is just a calculator, but it is not. So again, I just want people to know how cunning traffickers are. I'm very excited about this collaboration. Unstoppable Ministries, we were contacted by the Pennsylvania State Police. They wanted to collaborate. We have a signature human trafficking awareness event. Blind Eyes Open, The Truth About Sex Trafficking in America is an amazing documentary. And so Unstoppable Ministries, several years ago, we purchased a public license to show this documentary anywhere. And when I tell you that I have a passion to bring awareness, I have hosted this documentary over 8 times. And I believe this opportunity in Redline will be number 9. I'm willing to show this anywhere because it really highlights 6 survivors, their stories. It interviews several change champions that are in it. And it really shines a spotlight on human trafficking in the United States. Yeah, how do we be a part of solution? We learn what it is and we cut the head off of the snake. Right now, it's your sex entertainment industry, your pornography industry. If you know of someone who is dealing with pornography and they think, well, I'm not bothering anybody, I'm just, this is what I do. You can help them understand that not everybody in those pictures or videos are willing participants and could be children. So again, this workshop is free to the public. It's Saturday, November 18th from 10 to 1 p.m. The documentary is PG-13, so this workshop is appropriate for teens to adults. Again, it's free. It's at the Red Lion Recreation Center. So after we watch the documentary, then we open it up to a community conversation, and we will have various nonprofit agencies who are helping victims of trafficking. And then the call to action is being a part of the Red Sand Project. So again, if you're in the area or if you're available Saturday, November 18th, I would love to meet you in person at this Blind Eyes Open Human Trafficking Awareness Workshop. And again, we are willing to go anywhere and collaborate. So please, please, please reach out to us. Some resources. If you go on our website, unstoppableyouministriesinc.org, we have a comprehensive page filled with resources. It's like a one-stop shop. So we would encourage anybody to go there. You also got the Polaris Project, National Human Trafficking Hotline, and the Pennsylvania Commission on Crime and Delinquency. So we'll open it up to Q&A. This is our board, extraordinary ladies that I'm proud to go to war with each and every day. And then, of course, thank you. So I'm going to escape from my screen. And let's see. Do I stop sharing?
Yep.
Have I
think
stopped?
you did. You have.
Okay, great.
Thank you
All
so
right.
much, Miss Foxworthy. So there's two questions in the chat. I will
Okay.
read those to you. The first is from Tanya Bauer. The question, I believe, is related to the Red Lion event, the film
Okay.
showing. She asked, is the local victim service agency going to be present?
Yes, we do have law enforcement. I think maybe it's important for me to know what that local victim service you may be referring to. We have several, like Sparrow's Place, She's Somebody's Daughter, Justice House of Hope, the YWCA York. We have invited them to many of our events. I don't know. I think YWCA is no longer dealing with human trafficking, but I'll have to check with Crystal Perry to see if she is available. But they have been a part of our events, Blind Eyes Open, several times.
And
Thank
us
you,
at the
Tom.
PHRC, we have a relationship with the Y. So we could certainly, make that connection offline as well. The next question comes from Julia Kaya. Apologies if I'm mispronouncing that. Hold on, we're coming in hot now. What legal changes would you like to see to reduce the volume of humans trafficked in the US?
Oh gosh, there's so many. I think if we identify the vulnerabilities, with housing, insecurity, food insecurity. Many times people who are on government assistance or dealing with Section 8, that is a means to manipulate them. I had a client who was using Section 8. She had her boyfriend living there. He was abusive. She wanted to kick him out. But he said, you can't kick me out. If you do, I'll go to HUD. Therefore, you will lose your Section 8. So it's instances like that. People with evictions and poor credit, how do they get a chance to start over again? So I think it's reaching out to the politicians and saying, what are you doing about this? How are you making a difference? Stiffer penalties for traffickers, but also more resources for victims. Right now, you have many shelters that are set up for domestic violence, but they have human trafficking victims in there. So, and although there's an intersection, the victims are experiencing two different things. So again, if there's no resources, where does a victim go? And I think it's a matter of our legislators taking it seriously and putting money behind the resources so that people, when they're ready to get out, they have a safe place to go. Hopefully that answers your question, but I think it's a matter of how are they helping with the solution?
Thank you.
Mhm.
Leslie makes the suggestion to add the app Discord to the list, if you're not
Okay.
already familiar with that. Wanda asks, what, if any, is the symbol of victims?
What is the symbol used by victims? Like if they are in distress?
Wanda, we may need you to elaborate or come off of mute if you'd like. Oh, she followed it up by saying she understands that there is a symbol used by the victims.
Yes, and oh gosh, please forgive me, because it escapes my memory.
If
But
you want to,
it's yeah,
oh,
it's a sign language, but yeah, maybe Wanda, if you know, but it is escaping my mind at this time.
and if you come
Yeah,
across it later,
you can
you can certainly provide it. Wanda, were you adding to that?
No, my mic was unmuted now. I understand there is a symbol. I have seen some shows where they show the symbol, but I'm not that familiar with it to share. But it seems like there was a symbol that victims could use if they know they were in distress.
We may be able, Director Rothman, if you have a moment, or I, when we come off of line, to look that up, or Ms. Foxworthy, if you have time and you want to send it to us, we can disperse that with the other resources that we had shared previously.
Absolutely. And I think in victims using that symbol, it's important for everyone else to know what that symbol is, because it means nothing if they flash that symbol and everyone, hotel, that everybody else is not aware. And that's why education and awareness is key. So yeah, someone can flash up a I'm in distress symbol all day, but if other
It's
people
not
are not
familiar.
aware, it means nothing.
Right. So it looks like we have two more. Scarlett added that the YWCA York is and does provide services and and information for human trafficking. It looks like Emily Green did put in a
great.
visual. So thank you so much for that, Emily.
Perfect.
And I just want to scroll up. I saw one more. Anthony White asked, are there any efforts to increase the legal penalties of offenders in these cases? I know you recommended harsher sentences. Is there anything that you're aware of?
Say the question one more time. I'm trying to read.
Are there
and make
any
sure we're going
efforts that you're aware of to have harsher penalties?
Not at this time. I know that there are legislators that will be at the November 18th human trafficking event. And I think that would be a great opportunity to see what are they doing. And I think that's why the state police reached out to us, because like the residents of Red Lion were asking their House representatives, they were inquiring, what are you doing about human trafficking? Why is this business keep popping up? It gets shut down, due to illicit massage parlors and activities, and it pops back up again. So this is an opportunity. This is not a political event by any means, but there will be a few dignitaries there that this would be a great time to ask for a community conversation. How can we help, and what are you doing to make changes?
And so again, in the interest of time, this was fantastic. I want to just make note. I know you said, Ms. Foxworthy, that you are passionate about showing the film. Aaron Luddy or Ludi, again, apologies for a mispronunciation, asked if there's a way to live stream this, or if there are any plans to show it in Western Pennsylvania. So maybe if you give us permission to share your direct contact, we could share it to those that registered, and anybody that's interested in reaching out to you for a showing could directly, if you're okay to that.
I'm definitely okay to that. And the showing of Blind Eyes Open, it has to be in person. One of the things that the executive director put out is that we offer it for free. We do not charge. However, my nonprofit, we soak up the $5 per person cost. And then we send that money to the executive director, and then he spreads it out to the 6 survivors. That way they know that their story is not being exploited, and to further help their initiatives. So normally, yes, it is a $5 per person. We do not push that cost over to the public. My nonprofit, we take care of that. But showing it virtually, there's no way that we can control one person registers, but there's 15 people behind that camera watching. So that's the only stipulation, is that this documentary has to be shown in person.
Thank you. 2 more things really quickly. And so thank you. If everyone can hold tight, I just want to give a reminder of our upcoming events as well. Scarlett Moyer offered the resource for human trafficking as PCAR is a good resource. And Justice, thank you, Justice, did give an explanation of what that symbol is. Finger fold over and around the thumb, thereby symbolically trapping the thumb inside the finger, representing someone who is being trafficked, trapped, abused against his or her will. So thank you so much for giving that explanation, Justice. I appreciate that. I'm sure everyone else does as well. So a few last minute things, just kind of along the same lines. We do have our sexual harassment symposium on November 2nd at the Hilton, at the Doubletree by Hilton in Philadelphia, for anyone that would like to register and attend that. Ms. Foxworthy, we would love to have you, although I know that your schedule is jam-packed. I will be sure to send you that flyer. And then to round out our fall series of Lunch and Learns, November 15th, we have Miss Loretta Claiborne, Special Olympics pioneer and disability advocate. And December 14th, Dr. Renita Miller with the University of Pennsylvania Wharton Business School, who'll be talking about DEI in higher education. So I, again, want to thank everyone. A very special thank you to you, Ms. Foxworthy, for agreeing to do this, fitting the PHRC into your schedule. And I look forward to partnering again. Edie Lassiter, any closing remarks you'd like to offer?
I just appreciate everyone taking the time. That shows your commitment to this topic and to Pennsylvania and making a difference. And if I can be of service in any way, oh, there's my dear friend Justice. Justice is amazing. She'll actually be one of the speakers at my November 4th conference, and she is definitely in the trenches. So yeah, I just thank everybody. Together we can move mountains. And this is not something that one agency can tackle. Human trafficking is too big of a problem for one agency, or, this is mine and only I can do that. No, it takes the grassroots organization. It takes PHRC to be a part of the solution, advocates and guardians, educators. It takes everybody. And when we come together, we can move mountains and make a difference with this. So that's my last parting words.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ms. Foxworthy. Thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of your day.